Yes, we are in our mental health month. And of course, I had to add Maxwell Anderson to the list. Aside from him killing a 19-year-old woman, he went out with on a first date, Sade Robinson, and dismembering her body and throwing it all over Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and refusing to tell the family where this child's head is and other remains as of right now, the day that I am recording this. Hopefully by then, the family will know and have an idea of where the rest of this young woman's remains is. The 33-year-old man pled not guilty, even with enough evidence for the law to charge him, in which they did. Anderson's past work establishments, they describe him as a good worker and well-liked. I mean, it's not hard to believe if you want to keep your job, you have to be a good worker, for the most part. And well-liked? Well, I guess that would depend on the person. I believe Anderson may be a sociopath, acting more impulsively and erratically with many of his violent rants. Anderson, he's not the prettiest and he's not the ugliest, but I'm sure that, he has a sense of humor. There's something probably about him that he can attract the opposite sex. In one of the videos I posted, Carlos Robinson, Sade's father, said that Anderson was not her type. I mean, they went out on a date. It was the first date. Who even knows if it was going to be a second date? Put him in the friend zone immediately. Who knows? No one knows. No one knows what was going to happen. I mean, he said something. Again, maybe he was very humorous, funny. Maybe they liked the same, song at the time. Who knows what connected them? Maybe she just wanted to try the Twisted Fisherman place, right? Maybe she just wanted to try and wanted to go out with him. He was the one that she wanted to go out with that day. And opposites do attract. Unfortunately, like Carlos Robinson said, it's so many questions, but there'll never be any answers. Anderson, he has a host of other crimes under his belt. In October 2015, he pled guilty to damage to a property, intimidating a witness, and disorderly conduct and domestic violence. He was charged with 4 misdemeanors. He pled guilty to 3. He was placed on probation for a year and required to pay fines and restitution along with maintaining full employment or go to school. And he had to complete programs necessary by the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. And I'm thinking that one of those programs had to be management. In 2019, Anderson was arguing with a woman, and a man tried to intervene, and a video would actually capture Anderson on top of the man, punching the man repeatedly. He was charged with 2 misdemeanors. The battery charge was dismissed and disorderly conduct, but he did plead guilty. He had completed 25 hours of community service, and he paid $7,000 in restitution that had been paid out. In 2020, he had purchased a home. I'm not sure if it was the House of Horrors that poor Sade had visited with him, but they did have that on some of his reportings. In January 2022, Anderson was drunk driving 70 miles per hour in a 30-mile speed zone. He ran a red light. After coming home from his bartending job, he did a breathalyzer. It showed 0.145, and he did have an open container of alcohol inside the vehicle. So again, he pled guilty. I mean, look at your breathalyzer and look at the fact that you have an open container. That was actually Anderson's second DUI. His first one was in 2014 in Waukesha County. He was placed on a 1-year probation. His license was suspended and he was ordered to pay $350 in fines. He still was driving on that suspended license. And his probation officer had reported 1 month into him on probation that he had tested positive for cocaine, THC, and alcohol. The judge ordered that Anderson maintain his sobriety while on probation. Courts did have concerns about his mental health and his substance abuse. He was discharged off of probation in March of 2023. 1 year ago. Pretty much to the month. It looks like right after he was dismissed off probation, he would meet and kill Sade. Publicly, we know that that's the only person that he had killed. In July 2014, while visiting his family in Colorado, Anderson's family member would return home from work and found him acting strangely, sweating profusely. He would not answer any of their questions, like what was going on with him. He started to scream and throw things. He shut this family member in the room while Anderson had called his father. By the time that the police arrived, Anderson was gone. He had stole the family member's car, and when he returned back, he crashed it intentionally, that same car, into the patio of that home. He got into a physical altercation with another family member, and he broke multiple ribs of that family member's, and Anderson himself had a broken collarbone during this physical altercation. If they do believe that he was under the influence of drugs or alcohol, I'm going to say it probably was drugs and alcohol. He pled guilty and had to pay $416 in fines. Another situation in Egg Harbor, Anderson was staying with another relative. They told him that he could not come and go when he wanted to, and he had to clean up after himself, that there was rules to that home, and Anderson didn't like it. They also told him that he needed to probably seek mental health care because he had mental health issues. Anderson flew into a rage where he threw a glass, punched a hole in the wall, and smashed 2 cell phones when that relative tried to call the police because they no longer had their landline in the home. They had to go to a neighbor's house to call the police on Anderson, and the damages cost $1,300. It seems like, yes, he just pays his way, gets a couple of months probation, and he's on his way to do whatever he wants. And that's just right now what is publicly listed about Anderson. Can you imagine the stuff that he's done that's private, that hasn't been handled by a police officer? I cannot wait until his girlfriends come forward and say how their relationship was with Maxwell Anderson. This is footage of Anderson's basement, the quote-unquote sex dungeon that he was trying to make. I don't know if this is rented property or if this is Anderson's property. He bought a house in 2020. It could possibly be his property. But this is the footage shortly after Sade Robinson was dead. And it is disgusting. It is dirty. It's filthy. There's a big hole in the floor. It looks like a bed over there in the cut. It looks like something that maybe some old blood smeared. I believe that is the blood that they have been talking about in all these articles. And this is the property right here. And if he is erratic, and if he in fact is a sociopath, and he has those erratic tendencies, and he brought this small young woman to that house, Lord knows what he did if she questioned anything about him. He may have flew off a violent rage then. More than likely, he had a few drinks in him. Maybe that triggers it. And whatever happened, Sade was in this house, possibly in this basement. And unfortunately, she didn't live to tell the story of what happened involving this creep. And he sits in jail now. And I, again, will definitely be following this case on out. Still not saying anything about where this young woman's head is. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And yes, he is on my May Mental Health Month because I believe that Maxwell Anderson definitely has mental health issues.